Okay everyone, hello and welcome to this ProTrader webinar with Josh of Cyber Trading University. Josh is a seasoned stock trading instructor and coach at Cyber Trading University, boasting 10 years of trading experience and 8 years of teaching expertise. Trained by the renowned Fausto, Josh specialises in momentum-derived entry strategies, utilising an array of tools from BookMap. His expertise primarily focuses on stocks such as AMD and TSLA, along with small cap stocks showing news-driven activity in the pre-market hours, making him a valuable resource for aspiring traders. If you'd like to follow Cyber Trading University and Josh, you can do so from the links just below here. That's Cyber Trading U at YouTube, Cyber Trading U on X, formerly Twitter, and of course the website cybertradinguniversity.com. I'll post those links into the channel as we're streaming. Before we get underway, obviously, we do need to run through the risk disclosure here. So, general disclosure, all BookMap limited materials, information and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice, nor recommendations. Risk disclosure, trading futures, equities and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Now, this next slide is for those watching in YouTube. We are currently within the Discord. This is a Discord exclusive session within the BookMap Discord. If you'd like to join us for future sessions, you will need to join and get verified. To verify, it is free. You just need a BookMap subscription, so you can verify with a BookMap Digital Plus subscription or digital subscription. If you'd like to obtain that, just head to bookmap.com. Speaking of which, all next week we have our ProTrader webinar series with the BookMap Academy coaches. That will be available exclusively on the BookMap Discord, so if you'd like to join, you will need to join and verify for those sessions. Next, we have Bruce's pilot program. So this is from our lead educator, Bruce Pringle. It's his pilot program where he's developed it as sort of like a subset of the BookMap Academy, and it's where you can learn to obtain your edge with structured trades and the support of other traders. So I will drop a link to that into the channel directly after this stream. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also grab that link from the description. We also are currently running a competition. Unfortunately, I seem to have given you the Portuguese slide here, Josh. I'm very sorry about that. But this is our BookMap Pets competition. We are currently we previously ran a competition of Share Your Trade Desk, and we saw some brilliant pictures in that with, you know, everyone trading with their pets, their trading companions and their furry risk managers, and we thought it'd be a great idea to open that up for a calendar. So if you'd like a chance to win 1 month of Global Plus with no data and a copy of the calendar when it's created, just submit a picture of your pet at your trade station with BookMap in the background to X, LinkedIn or Instagram with the hashtag BookMapPets. You will then be able to see it in our landing page, which again, I'll post the link in here, and it will be available in the Discord, in the YouTube description. I believe that is the last slide, Josh. So I'm going to hand it over to you now and keep myself on mute. Thanks very much.
Obrigado, Dan. Obrigado. And that's the only Portuguese I know, at least. But great to have you here. Great to be at least on BookMap's platform, on Discord, and eventually on the YouTube as well. But let's hop right into it, because I'll tell you, I mean, I was actually supposed to be presenting here yesterday, and a couple little mix-ups happened, mainly from my end. But, you know, that actually gives us even more to talk about here. Even just before, a stock that we had called out inside our live trading room, I'm not even showing it on this screen here. I was even back testing a couple of things with indicators and charting, and I didn't even use BookMap for that trade. What I want to do is go over that, but also a few other movers, even from yesterday. And I have to start off with the trade I was going to begin to go over from yesterday, and that's the LASE trade, LASE. Now, I know a lot of our members inside our live trading room are actually joining this Discord here, and they'll be able to tell you themselves. This ended up just making this extraordinary pop going into the mid-afternoon. But we were focused on this trade all from the morning, and all from the morning, this wasn't performing the way that we were anticipating for it to. It took time, right? It's kind of like from Happy Days, like the Fonz, you got to elbow the jukebox a bit to get it to play. That's pretty much what happened here. But without BookMap, you wouldn't have known where to have gotten in from. Without BookMap, you wouldn't have known where to take this trade from. So let's begin by going over this at least. And granted, whatever news came out that happened for this stock, LASE, for it to pop, it's nice to know that there's a catalyst, right? It's good to have that. But we don't trade off the news. We trade off the volume most importantly. And, without BookMap, again, you're going to be left blind. So early in the morning, we had a resistance in pre-market early at $4. It was about 27,000 shares on the sell side. Now, here's the thing. Once this ends up getting poked at and hit, all right, well, there's a chance, I guess, it can keep popping and breaking out right here and then. It rejected, of course. It came back down quick. Now, the key is with taking a breakout trade, normally, this should hold at first. This is resistance. It was out there all morning at first initially, so no surprise that it should at least hold at first. But the more times it keeps poking that price throughout the morning, throughout the afternoon perhaps even, and especially in a smaller window of time, more compression in a smaller window, that's your opportunity to see that squeeze. So that's actually going to parlay perfectly into the stock we'll load up here in a moment, the stock that I just called out earlier in our room. But this is yesterday. You had this order for about 27,000 shares that got hit on this stock LASE. It had rejected it. It came down. Granted, I'm sure there could have been entries all from the morning here and maybe at like this little support level at 350, bounced up, I guess, there. That's great, but we want to focus on a stock that's trending upward. And although this was up percentage-wise here at this point in the morning still, it's trending down and there's no guarantee it's going to come back up. So after the market opened up here, this is the talking point between not just $4, but this green ball, this green volume dot here. This is just what I nickname personally the opening print. It's the largest transaction on the time and sales window. It's the biggest print on the tape there. And when the market opens, this is not just one buyer or just one person. It's a conglomerate of orders that trigger right at the opening bell. All right, so here it's at $3.99. It's for about 142,000 shares though, right? So if we were just kind of saying, oh, wow, this is big, 26,000, then what adjective do we use to describe this? The 142,000 shares here. So it just goes to show with more and more pent-up volume at that $4 price, at that $3.99 price, it provides reason to take the trade. But remember what I said just to begin though beforehand, the more times it's testing that level in a smaller window of time. So after the market opens up, we wait the first 5 minutes normally. Fausto, myself, and our traders at Cyber Trading University, we tend to wait the first 5 minutes. So this is exactly why. You don't want to get stuck trying to catch a falling knife. So it broke down. I guess it bounced later on here. But this is where, let me turn the heat map off because I'll even show via just kind of the, just do a little Van Gogh here, a little drawing. No, but seriously, between this first, print that came out and this initial test of resistance, it's about 2.5 hours. That's way too long of time in between level tests. Now, granted, I want to mention, trading is not perfect, folks. Have you ever met a trader that's been perfect on all of their trades? I haven't. So that's just where I'll tell you there's room for error. And I want to mention that, hey, if this looks to try and break out, if it looks to try and pop here at this point, let me get this, where's the circle? There you go. This provides an opportunity to try and take this trade right here. Now, if you were to jump in right off the breakout from 4, you need to see it break higher. You need to see it run. You need to see it make that extraordinary squeeze. Why do I say that? Well, in our training at cyber trading and inside our room, we often say when a stock breaks through a big level, you should be getting, well, a pretty big move. So if it breaks above this price and holds it as support, okay, maybe it could pop. It held it as support for maybe 3 or 4 minutes here, and then it failed, right? So right place, wrong time. That happens. That happens all the time, folks, whether you want to admit it or not, right? So that's just where here, look what happens. It holds underneath $4 again, but it keeps banging on that door, and going into 1 o'clock. We were calling this out right inside our room. A lot of our students ended up nailing it on this trade, with myself at least, but broke out. And this made obviously that larger, that big move shortly after. Now, though, at this point, where do we have our next resistance? We got what we want in terms of the entry, the reaction. Where do we have our next resistance? Now, if we look all the way up top at $5, I could probably make this like more vivid, a little bit brighter in terms of like seeing that orange line at 5. But one thing that makes BookMap so great and powerful of a trading tool is that it's very customizable. So I have my heat map staged in a certain format with the brightness, the contrast, etc., etc. But just to tell you though, once it breaks this area, just look at the COB column. I mean, yeah, there's something here at 450, but much larger at 5. So at the min, I'm expecting this to make a stronger move to at least get closer to $5, if not over $5, and then we'll go from there. So that's essentially what happened, right? I started scaling out on this trade, not only from BookMap, but also just from daily chart. Oh, that's a nice move here too in Rocket Lib. We'll get to that even next if we have time. Been a busy day here, Dan. No, but seriously, just to say though, on the LASE, we started scaling out in accordance to daily chart levels too. We weren't only focused on BookMap. It's such a important part of our strategy, but between BookMap and the daily chart, we started scaling out as it was moving up to 5, then on the pop up over 5, just over time. And well, at that stage, I forgot what happened here. So it pulled back. You want 5 to be support, but with these 2 new sell orders that show up here, totaling for about 230,000 plus shares between 650 and between $7, it adds selling pressure back on the trade, right? It's possible the stock could try and move up and go up even higher and run up to those orders again, right? I don't know if anyone here is a gym goer. I need to be going more myself. But listen, if you do a little bench press and you're just pressing the bar, it's not much weight, granted, so you could probably rep it out a lot. Well, if all of a sudden some jerk comes up on the bench and just adds 2 45-pound plates just out of nowhere, what do you think is going to happen? So that's essentially what happened here on this stock. It got crushed. It came right back down. And at least for the most part, that was game over. We weren't focused on this trade at all today. Looks like maybe $4 could have been a support level one more time. And kind of hovered right from 4, but this is a flavor of the day type of stock. This stock LASE, whatever news came out, I can't even tell you, made this big pop, 100+% mover. But the issue is with these small cap stocks, they'll just drop right back down the next day. And if it's not the next day, it's the day after that, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the stock Octo, OCTO, formerly Octo, now it's known as ORBS. The stock was at 5,000% the other week, all right? So it was flavor of the day. It came right back down. The stock CWD, it's small cap stock, just like that LASE trade. It was flavor of the morning here, this one day in pre-market on the 9th. It's just, that's all it is. So that's where I say for the LASE trade, we had no interest in this stock today. If it wanted to prove itself to us, it would have popped in pre-market. It would have popped in the after hours, held higher here. And that's it. That's how you can just kind of move on to something else. Now, though, let me jump to another stock, at least in the meantime, because this is not as much a day trade. It could be, but this is a stock I'm in on right now as a swing. I jumped in on this stock, BBAI, Big Bear AI, and Dan, I know that BookMap hosts a long list of different presenters, great educators from the industry, and actually some friends of CTU. Jay Trader, Scott Pulsini, a bunch of these traders that you see each and every week here. They'll trade the large caps, they'll trade the small caps. I'm sure that someone had to have discussed this BBAI trade already. But even from the last several months, it's been moving back up. It came back down a bit, had some weak guidance on earnings back in August. I don't know if you heard this. On Monday afternoon, news broke. For the first time ever, a U.S. politician bought shares of BBAI. And if you know your U.S. politicians, you know that they know something. So that's where here on BBAI, the interesting part about this was the news broke Monday afternoon on the 15th. Now with that, the politician that disclosed the position was $50,000 worth of BBAI. She actually entered the trade on August 7th. Like that was disclosed that she had purchased it on August 7th before their earnings and before they crashed. I bet she was betting on them to run up. Well, mistake maybe by her, but once that news broke Monday afternoon, I guess this was just right place, right time because I got back from little happy hour Monday afternoon. I just all of a sudden see this stock inching up. I'm like, what's this about? And I saw the news. Well, you jump in pretty quickly because you expect 1 + 1 = 2. Also, BBAI, they make the majority of their revenue via government contracts. So you do the math there. Ran up instantly the next day. Obviously, it's been pushing up ever since. Let's take a look at BookMap here today, though, from at least this morning, because what I could tell you is that the more that this keeps moving up here, it's likely approaching resistance. It's likely testing a resistance. Well, let's use the heat map from yesterday into this morning to identify where we may have our better levels. So yeah, it looks like we have resistance, not necessarily at 640, but 645 and 650 here put together, totaling for about 240,000 shares almost. So you know that that's going to be your big point of interest heading into the next day. Now, this is this morning. This is just obviously from earlier today. So if you were looking at this trade thinking, all right, well, where can I get in from? If not as a swing trade, then just even as a day trade. All right, well, listen, on 1,000 shares, take this from 650 maybe on the breakout of resistance, or if it could flip that into a support. We have some other orange lines here maybe to worry about. But your next larger resistance would be at 7. Your next 6-digit number, 100 plus thousand share sell order out here, well, after 650 is $7. So after the market opened, what happened? Well, it ended up testing resistance at first, and it came back down, so it wasn't a clean pop and a breakout immediately, right? So in that case, because of that, that's where I say, just remember our first topic here just before when it came down to that LASE stock. The more times it pokes that level in a smaller period of time, that's where there's thought for an entry. So even here, this presents an opportunity. You're thinking, all right, there's a shot. If it wants to run, it needs to stay over 650, 645 here. It weakens out. It tries, but it comes back. I'm not necessarily trying to watch the grass grow for the next hour and a half, 2 hours. There's other trades that are moving better. So if it pulls back and you're not interested in holding on to this thing, I get it. Just cut your loss and that's it, and go break even. Now, though, easy to say, it came back up, and the more times it keeps poking it, you're eventually going to get what you want. There are times where the stock just makes a full-fledged reversal and there's no next time. So, it's easy to say, well, it popped. Well, yeah. But the more that you're watching that same resistance getting poked at, it's going to break. It's going to make that move close to that next major resistance. So at least on the BBAI trade, really good day trade on this stock today. As far as planning out a swing trade long term, what you could even use is BookMap just across this whole given week. And you could even use the volume profile here to say, all right, well, if the markets drop off next week just out of random, and if this pulls back, then I would be strongly led to believe that 583 to $6 for that to flip into a support in due time. That's definitely larger volume buildup. So if that has the chance to get tested as support, that would be great for a potential swing trade opportunity. But here's the thing. Much like the meteorologists on whatever channel you watch TV on each morning, we can't predict the weather perfectly. So if this wants to just keep going up perfectly over time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, next week, more people find out about this news. Listen, this thing could have a mind of its own eventually, right? It has a trend line here off these highs. It's likely going to revisit soon enough. It has a gap here. It could likely fill perhaps even by later today up towards 709, 708. There's a lot of room on the stock. So it's just tougher to plan it out perfectly. But if you're given the chance to see support test, then probably right around $6, even off these lows if you want to go into it there. But otherwise, those are the two trades I really wanted to discuss from yesterday, from this week at least. Dan, I know you're itching for crypto. We're going to get to Bitcoin here in just a bit. We'll finish up on that. But, there was a stock earlier inside our live trading room. You join us on the trading floor here at Cyber Trading University, and we're making call outs all day on different trades. Not to say, there's always a good time to be trading. Right now, quite frankly, for a Friday mid-afternoon, there's normally not as much. But if the stars could align for a given move, then take it. So this stock MP, before I even look at the heat map myself, listen, this thing was just building up today. just chart resistance, right? Just beautiful ascending triangle, Fausto flag, you can call it. And once it broke the top, easy move, right? Ended up jumping in on this trade right off of 73.04. Where are we? Right there. 73.04. And then I ended up getting out on this in like two parts. Too lazy to jump into my options platform here to look for calls, but it's right there and pushed up even more. But point being is that I actually didn't really use BookMap for this trade. I was kind of back testing one or two things just with indicators, with charting. And this was honestly clean enough to just take from the regular graph. No indicators like needed. I was just back testing some stuff, playing around with things. But that means I actually didn't focus too much on BookMap here, actually, and I normally do. So I made it a point, because I knew I was going to be on here today with Dan and Bruce and the fine folks over at BookMap here. I didn't want to load this up yet until right now. Hand up, hands of God. I did not load this up until this very moment. So this will be a raw reaction as far as like, well, where were the better levels? Where could we have entered if not from that chart level? And where was resistance? So that's where, at least here, you have resistance at 73. I mean, it's not large order size, about 9,400 shares, but for a $73 stock, it's enough. I was more focused on the breakout. I was calling the stock out more going into like early afternoon. So this was not a focal point of mine going into the open. Maybe you could have had support build here, but point being is that I found this on my scanner for an early afternoon trade. All right, well, we have a lot of volume building up around this 72.40. I normally would be a fan of taking the trade from there. I normally just would be if we didn't have resistance right above it. If there is no resistance here, and this ends up getting broken back above, I would be more keen to take it off that price. But what's easy to say is once it rebroke it, it kept banging on that door. Now, I ended up getting out around 75 because even without BookMap, you focus on $5 prices. I mean, if you think even with $1 prices, for any of my people inside the United States, you got the $1 bill, the $5 bill, 10, 20, 50, etc. Well, think of those like psychological levels. The George Washingtons, the Abraham Lincolns, et cetera, right? Who's on the $10 bill again? Was it Hamilton? I forget. Anywho, just to say though, ended up making the break over 73. When I'm thinking about $5 prices, probably you have support at 70. Ooh, no support at 70. Maybe at first, but actually no support there. Well, that's a little dangerous. If there's no support even at that price, you got to watch out. But thankfully, this played out pretty well still. I would expect resistance at 75, though, next. Your next $5 incremental. 65, 70, 75, etc. Well, you know what? Maybe if I had used BookMap here on this trade, I wouldn't have gotten out on the first half of my entry where I did. I really didn't have an exit on this trade here. I didn't really have an exit as far as the game plan goes. I had an entry. I knew where I wanted to enter from. So when you don't have a game plan for your exit, you should be a little bit quicker to take profits. So I was there. If I had my BookMap here in time, if I was more prepared using BookMap, then I would have felt more confident to at least see this run up to 75, if not to 76. Because, hey, 76 looks like a larger level that was there actually even in pre-market. That thing was out there all pre-market, right? And if you look above 76, I mean, maybe after that is 80s, 81s. But you're kind of shooting for the moon there. You're getting a little too greedy when this is at 73. So this definitely is your next resistance. I could have played it better if I had BookMap open. That's for sure. But you know what? This is a trade that I took where I was back testing something on TradingView and just looking at other things. And it's garbage time on a Friday, right? I think that we got better things to be doing than just being glued to our screen all day, every day. So for a day and time where you shouldn't be expecting much, this was a gift. So I have no complaints on the exit. Just, hey, if I had BookMap open, it would have made it that much easier, right? All right, so those were the big movers, at least, that I wanted to jump into. There was a couple of others I did focus on from earlier with our students live inside our room. The quantum trades are just going ballistic. Rigetti breaking all-time highs from yesterday into today, resistance at 30. QBTS just broke a new all-time high just before here off 26. the nuclears. I mean, between quantum and nuclear together, it feels like OKLO is going to be at 150 by the end of the day today. I'm like joking when I say that, but maybe semi-joking. But seriously, I mean, this has gone ballistic as well. A lot of us inside our room have been doing pretty nicely on that. Let's dip to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has literally, no pun intended, but I guess intended, has been dipping, right? So a lot of people are speculating, if we're not going to hold higher and if we're not going to look to try and break out, then there's a thought where we're going to look to pull back down to 100,000 again, if not lower. Some people I follow on social media, and the word follow, it's kind of like a cult word there, follow. People I pull up their page on social media, I kind of read what they're posting, and I appreciate what they mentioned with Bitcoin and analysis. Well, listen, a lot of those people are looking for Bitcoin to pull back to 100,000, 90,000, etc. Now, when we look at BookMap here to answer that, if it's going to happen soon enough, well, the main question is, do we have support? Now, for Bitcoin, I know that this is a conglomerate across a few different exchanges, aggregate conglomerate, but this is between, I believe, Binance, Huobi, and OKEX. So this is for spot price at least, but normally I would see some larger order on the bid. There really isn't much, even at 115,000, thinking about those $5 prices, thinking about $5,000 prices. Well, there should be something there. There's something down below at 110. That's 115 Bitcoin worth. But listen, there's not much support from here until that price. And then after that, I guess there's a more at 105, but be careful heading into this weekend where there normally is a bit more support on the Bitcoin heat map here. There really isn't. And hopefully my computer doesn't fry trying to do this right now, Dan. I'm going to try and load up more data right now, at least the last couple of days. And maybe there was support. Maybe it got pulled. Maybe the rug got pulled. So that's where you got to be careful. But as of right now, it wouldn't shock me heading into the weekend, heading into Monday, have this crash down to at least 110. Pretty scary. I know people don't want to hear that, especially if you're in from 120, in from 118, etc. But you got to follow the book. All right. Now, real brief, Dan, if you could help me out so kindly, let me know if there's any questions coming in from any of the members here on Discord right now. But otherwise, let me know if there's any trades that you want me to take a look at here briefly. We'll keep going for another 10, 15 minutes here before I wrap up. But if there's other trades you want me to look at for any of us here, I see Moses here, Dunsman, I see Pikes Peak, I see a bunch of us here just on Discord. Space Pirate, I like that name. Let me know if there's any stock you want me to take a look at.
Space Pirate is a great name. So if anybody does want to ask questions, if you just open up the chat at the top right of your stream, you should be able to just type in your questions to Josh here. So Just Hit Me has asked, can we ask questions here and do their reply? So yes, we do. Just Hit Me. And yeah, if you'd like to ask your questions, just get them in down the right hand side. Josh, one thing I did think we were going to talk about was Intel. Obviously, we remembered the article from before. I've actually managed to find a copy of the Medium talking about that poor trader. So if you'd like to take a look at that, I can also drop the link for that in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at that immediately here. This is going to load up just a bit more. Do we have more data here on BookMap here? We do. It's just still going to load. Yeah, we're going to load up the Intel trade also because, well, we had some great news that came out with Intel the other day. But yeah, that story, I would love for you to share that with everyone here. It's like funny, but it's also very sad, right? So it's a bad circumstance of events that happen, but that's why we got to be smart with our money. That's why we got to get BookMap here, because it makes it that much easier to follow the orders. Give it a sec here. You know what? The Bitcoin here, I think, is kind of loading everything up. Maybe if I kill the data here, but here, let's do that. We'll try and do that right now. Then we'll load up the Intel data. There we go, right away. You know what? Let's go back even more if we can.
So many, such a wide number of different price points that can be traded on a $100,000 instrument. I think it's going to take a while for it to load in. We have had one question that's come in as well once we've been through Intel. So Moondog FX is asking, can you analyze GC entry at 9:13 a.m. this morning? So I don't think you've got gold up at the moment, but we can take a look at that later, I'm sure. But yeah, sorry for interrupting.
Later on, perhaps. I'm not sure if I have data for futures or for gold, at least on my account. So I'll take a look at that if I'm able to. Oh, geez, this is MP. My goodness. Blowing up Intel there, I thought. There we go. I was wondering what was going on there. My apologies. Here's the Intel data, though, from yesterday. And it had a great pop off of news with NVIDIA. What was it, like a $5 billion investment or deal? I think that's basically, in summation, what happened. A couple things before I definitely want to discuss that sad circumstance there with that trader. It was from last year, I believe, right, Dan?
Yeah, June last year, I think it was.
Okay, so we'll go into that in a bit, but this just to dig into, anytime a company that has such a high amount of outstanding shares or float pops like this, it's very rare, not that often. So you shouldn't really expect to see that great continuation. And it's not that often that Intel ever pops up like 20-30% intraday. So I bet you a lot of investors that may have been underwater on this a little bit are looking to get out if they're able to on a quick pop. So just case in point, it didn't make the greatest move yesterday. And even when it tried to, it broke over resistance at 32. This could have been your moment, because I'm sure there could have been some built up buying pressure. There was at 32 yesterday in pre-market. And, after the open, it dropped, consolidate, test. Like, there's a good shot here for this to try and move. Obviously, it doesn't make that big move shortly after, like we were talking about with LASE. So that's just where it's worth a shot. But if it's not performing the way you want it to, loser, or just get out, kind of just don't get stuck wasting your time on it otherwise. Now, today, pulled back a little bit. It held the closing print from yesterday pretty well, just at the open, and dropping off a little bit more. I was actually covering this a little bit for our students inside our live class just earlier today, Dan, just not even members of our room, but like full-fledged students of ours. I didn't show the BookMap, though, because our class was not focused on BookMap yet. I'm actually teaching a live BookMap class for CTU later on today. It's a full 60-minute class there. So, just case in point, though, the more this kept banging on this, floor at 30, it was bound to break. The more selling pressure is coming in on the bid, this was bound to happen. So this actually, we were watching inside our live class at the time, and it pulled back and it broke down beautifully. So it just goes to show that the more times it keeps testing that level in a smaller concentration of time, you're going to see trend continue. So eventually the sellers won the battle here today. It just broke down more. And your next support is at 29.50, then at 29. But yeah, let's just kind of dip into that story there briefly, Dan, on the Intel trade. That was crazy there. That was from probably here, then, I'd imagine, right? One of these gaps.
Yeah, so I do remember it. So it was before an earnings call. I'm pretty sure it's around about the time that you've grabbed it there for the was that the 8th? For August, yeah. So it was either August or June. I know his average entry price was something around 30.50. So it would be around that mark. So maybe it was either June or August, but it was just before one of their earnings calls, and I remembered seeing it drop as he was doing it. The poor guy, I mean, he was a student. It's probably one of his first trades. And yeah, it just was perhaps a choice of poor entry as much as it was a poor decision. But the trader did say to themselves that they were going to hold this for a decade as well. So it's perhaps within their plan. But yeah, so that's about as much information as I've got on it. I have linked the article in if anyone would like to take a look within the comments on the commentary channel.
Yeah, definitely send that out there. But I would say, listen, I'm sure that you host a variety of traders that are not just, newer to the markets, but also more experienced, and not just, let's say if you're semi-retired or retired, have the time to trade daily, you might be on the younger side, right? Little words of the wise: never try and trade mom and dad's money, let alone grandma's money, because the whole story with this was that, unfortunately, when this trader's grandmother had passed, she gave him like a lot of money in the will, and he traded it all on Intel. He put $750,000 on Intel. That's insane. I don't think most people here would ever think to do that, but needless to be said, yeah, let's try and use that money wisely, right?
Definitely, definitely. We have actually got a question from Dusman as well. So, do you join trades once their trend begins? If so, why do you think it's better than counter trend trades? That's a good question, actually.
This is funny because it brings me back to a little video Fausto did himself for Cyber Trading University just yesterday. It's for our YouTube account, for our Instagram, like a little, 30-second, but discussing some advice that he got from his mentor early on, and basically saying your record shows who you are, right? In terms of football talk, in terms of the markets as well, right? There's a reason why the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles are who they are, and there's a reason why the New York Giants, I guess, are who they are. Yeah, but just seriously though, going back towards trading stocks. Well, it's nice to try and buy dips, but I love buying dips on healthy stocks. Obviously, like NVIDIA, just to mention, from the last year and a half, or as much as this moved up, well, you would say that, well, it's a very healthy company. And that's the only reason why, this is moving up as steadily as it has been for as long as it has been. So when there are corrections on healthy stocks long term, that's not going counter trend. I just want to make that known to everyone here. That's reasonable when it comes to looking for support and catching a dip. But though, you got to make sure you get that reaction after. The issue with doing that on stocks that have been trending down historically, this is a great example. And we'll go further into this question even next. But this stock I took a loss on last week. This stock, PRTS, basically some cheap stock. It was starting to go back up a little bit. And when I went back long term, I'm like, wow, wait a second. This has some beautiful support right around here. And it was coming back up and above it from last week. It was popping back over here. I was like, oh, okay, there's a chance this can really fly. Like, if this wants to run the way it did back in 2020. And even before that, I think there was multiple squeezes from the same price. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, all right, well, I would love for history to repeat itself, obviously. And even if we can get a fraction of that type of squeeze, have this go up to like 250, have it go up to like $4, who knows? I mean, if you look at the long-term graph, it's not outside the realm of possibility for this to even go up to 10 or $9 on some squeeze here, right? Well, at the minimum, it broke above it here and popped a bit, but it needs to at least flip that into support, right? At the bare minimum, if you're looking for another leg. But this is not a healthy company, though. You could tell that just based on the record, based on the historical performance of the company, right? It's like the Cleveland Browns of stocks. No, I'm teasing for anyone from Cleveland. I'm sorry. But seriously, though, just to say that, yeah, I ended up taking a loss on this because it failed to hold us as support. Broke right below it. That's it. Well, I'm happy I took my tiny loss and moved on. But as far as going with the trend, it's extremely important to do that, and especially if you're focused on day trading. So if you're looking at stocks that are dropping off over time, it's okay to look for a bounce, but it's not okay to try and catch a falling knife and then just not set your stop and then move away from your desk for an hour to go to the dentist, come back, whatever it is. That's very risk on, and that's kind of irresponsible, right? I just like to make that known because when you're looking to take trades, it's there's a lot of ways to make money. There's about 100 times more that ways to lose money. So that's just where, again, I focus on stocks that have healthier trends long term, especially on the swing trade side. So even mention that, I'm in on a couple swing trades right now. My Rocket Lab trade, I have my stop set for. That's a day trade. But I'm in on swing trades on these four stocks right here. Otherwise, the greens. Soon, SMCI actually just started yesterday on that. The others I've been holding on to for like a week and a half. But soon, Bumble, BBAI. So even if I were to just show those three to you, BBAI is the politician stock I mentioned, right? All right, well, when you look long term, the last 52 plus weeks, granted, I guess it's still higher low. Granted, it's still lower highs technically, but it's beautiful higher lows, right? The Soon trade, SOUN, last year and a half, 2 years, beautiful higher lows. It's very healthy graph from that point. HIMS, which I'm not in on right now. It's actually doing great the last couple of days. I filled this gap here beautifully from the last month and a half, 2 months, and ended up getting in like around one of these candles here on one of these wicks one of these days. And then from there, moved up nicely. But point being is just, these are all very healthy graphs historically, at least over the last year and a half, 2 years. So I'd rather bet on that when it comes to looking for a move upward. Now, when you're thinking about an intraday trade, like a 1 minute chart, remember the stock I showed from earlier, one of these losers that popped big last week, CWD, on the 9th, it went berserk. But then it came back down as soon as the market opened, right? So how do you react? How do you look to understand when the trend dies off? There we go. That's what we're talking about here. Now, granted, in pre-market, what makes this even crazier, and crazier isn't always good, is that there's no volatility halts in pre-market. You can only see a stock get halted in pre-market off of news, but or like if the exchange is halted. But the more this goes up percentage-wise, from 100% to 200% to 500% to that, it's just less likely to see it keep going. Like inside our live trading room, if you join us there for a week, we often see stocks up 100, 200% daily. That's the norm. That's what we've conditioned ourselves to become used to. Now, the more it pushes up, you become a bit more timid to jump in because you're thinking, oh, eventually the wheel's got to fall off eventually. So it's okay to like miss out on moves like this if you're afraid of it dropping because it's moved up so much. Rightfully so, because, well, you know what I mean? So there's a difference at least. I'm not going to jump into every stock that's just moving on up perfectly. You got to eventually realize, or you got to realize that eventually every roller coaster has a top, right? I can give you all sorts of different puns and analogies here. It's like we're playing one giant game of musical chairs, right? And when the music stops, well, you better find your seat. You better not be left without a chair here on this trade. This is like a chair and it collapsed, drop. So it's okay to be, fearful of taking trades because you feel like they're too extended. But on the flip side of that, I'm not going to try and be the hero and short this stock. Right? Imagine shorting this stock. And hey, in pre-market, not only are there no volatility halts, this can keep going up to God knows what price. But if you're not too experienced or if you don't know yet, you can't set stop orders in pre-market. So imagine getting the doors blown off on your trade here and you get squeezed out. So I always say to our students here inside our live trading room, you don't want to be the hero. Don't try and play contrarian trader. If you tried doing that back at the end of 2023, you're probably not in this Discord right now. Let's be honest. You're probably not in this Discord now if you tried shorting the market at the end of 2023. Probably got liquidated. You probably quit. I'd probably say the same thing here. So it's just to say that, it's always better to go with the trend. Now, where we talk about like an Intel type of trade, well, when we think about long term, Intel has not been a great trade long term for quite some time. I mean, for the last 5 years, it's been dropping. Maybe eventually it's going to go back up long term, but on down days, at least if Intel is making lower highs, and even here there's a fat gap that this can attempt to fill, that presents a good shorting opportunity there. But you better be careful though, because what happens when the tides begin to turn? If you don't realize that the buyers are going to start to support this stock and it's going to begin to curdle back up and break back over that $30 price we had mentioned earlier, well, then you're going to start to see the momentum go against you. Like we had said, $30 big support, dropping off, filling the gap. Maybe the markets are dropping too. So a lot of that plays in part with my decision making to taking a trade. Actually, on Intel, just to mention, it was the other day. I think it was coming off the interest rates, but initially markets ended up pushing back on up, right? This was back from Wednesday's chart here. So at first I was looking at a short on Intel. That was Wednesday before yesterday's news broke. That would have been a day trade only, but yeah, just to mention though, Sunrun, another company that historically, listen, it's not doing great. It's not the greatest thing out there. It's been dropping off since 2021. It's been making lower highs since. So on down days where the markets are tanking, that's not a horrible thought to look for a short on a stock that has performed weaker historically. All right. Dan, let me know any other questions that are coming in at least here, because we'll probably wrap up in the next few minutes at least. But if there's any last questions, let me know.
So there is nothing in the questions at the moment yet, but I mean, great analysis so far, and thanks so much for giving it, Josh. It's always lovely to have you on, and Fausto as well. The way in which you approach this is quite different to how a lot of traders do, and so it's always great to see. It's quite interesting. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say God bless you, but no, absolutely, and I appreciate always just being on, I was going to say.
Of course. I mean, it's great to have you in. I wish we could have you in more regularly, to be honest, but obviously with so many educational sessions and you obviously running sessions daily, it's very difficult for us both to find the time. So yeah, I mean, we're not getting any further questions in, guys, so like, please do get it in. We only get Josh once a month. And obviously this recording and obviously this recording will be posted to YouTube as well, so you will have a chance to ask questions on that and review the content within the stream. Did you want to share your other deck for the moment, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I part ways, at least, I appreciate being on once a month, and Fausto himself will likely be back next month here. It was his birthday yesterday. We had him take off with his family, and then I got the hot tag in. So I always appreciate being on here, Dan. But otherwise, if you wanted to follow along with us here at Cyber Trading University, feel just free to subscribe right to our YouTube account right here at Cyber Trading U. And then otherwise, we're also on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. We're actually on TikTok, believe that or not. I don't dance there, but we're there to educate too. But just make sure to follow us at least on all social media platforms. But if you wanted to follow along directly inside our live trading room, we're offering a week-long exclusive trial membership to our room. We actually have audio broadcast live right now as we're talking. And I'll be teaching a live class in T-minus about 14 minutes live. That is a paid class for students even. So that's something to think about even down the line. But first, you got to join our live trading room. So scan that QR code. If you're fancy with your phone, fancy with your camera, just join us right there for $9. You can go right down to this link here too, ctu.co/trial. Again, we have commentary all throughout the day. There's Fausto, 36+ year pro himself. There's my ugly mug right here, Josh Levitan. You got my colleague, Rich, who's tagging in for me right now live as I'm here. Commentary all throughout the day. There are students, Carrie, Grant, Michael. We have alerts, to keep you keep you in the know, at least if you're not right at your desk, if you're on the road. Live presentations. There's my Traders Talk workshop I host inside our room every Monday. So you get all this just for $9, folks. So if you wanted to join us and even begin going into next week, just to begin on Monday, fresh new week, just join us right here. Scan that QR code or go right to the website down below, ctu.co/trial, and look forward to having you there.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks so much, Josh. And we've had no further questions come in. We have had a comment from Dude saying CTU is a great deal for $9, good system. So it's a nice review from the Discord population already.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think we should probably end the session here as well, because I'm sure you want to be getting on with your day. There's only an hour left of trading before the end of the trading day as well, and it being triple witching, it's going to be a pretty mental close, I'm sure. So thanks so much for your time, Josh. And yeah, I'll give you a shout after this session to talk more.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Dan. Looking forward to chatting with you as well. And to all of us here, I see, all of us on Discord, Moses, Pikes Peak, Space Pirate, there you go. You got Pete the Cat also. You got the Dallas Cowboys joining us right now. I don't know if I like you, but I appreciate all of us on Discord, though, otherwise here this afternoon. Thank you very much. And look forward to the next one, Dan.
I'm sure the Dallas Cowboys appreciate being here as well, though. I think the UK equivalent at the moment is Manchester United.
There you go.
But yeah, thanks so much, Josh. It was great to have you, and we'll see you next month, if not sooner.
Excellent, Dan. Take care.
Cheers. Goodbye.